Hey guys, my name is Sean Cannells. I'm in the audio production program. I'm going to be going over my process for when I'm recording bands or when I'm writing my own music and recording my own music. So, like the first part, which is obviously writing the song, there's going to be a lot of like jamming, experimentation, trying different guitar riffs with different drum beats, and that's where a lot of creativity happens and ultimately where it starts. So when recording guitar, my signal flow for this is going to be my guitar, which is the Ibanez K7 currently, going into the quad cortex, and I could also run it straight into my Antelope interface, and I can do processing inside of that. And then I also have a DI preset on my quad cortex that I made, and that allows me to just go straight in if I wanted to use um, my Neural DSP plugins or whatever plugins I want to use, and I can do processing that way as well. And then I can also run my external guitar pedals, like I have the Fortin Natos, the Meshuggah pedal, the Diesel VH42. If I want to use any of those as an external, I can run that through the quad cortex or through my interface as well. And I feel like it just gives me a lot of flexibility on whatever I want to do. So on this part, I'm going to be going over like my song structure, and I did a little bit of work ahead of time just to get it laid out to make it a little bit faster. So I have sections out here with verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, a bridge, another chorus, and go to an outro, kind of simple song structure. And I went through Easy Drummer because it's easy and it's a drummer. And I went through and found some drum beats that I liked. You'll hear those shortly. And then for my guitar tone, I think it crushes. So, yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but hopefully you can. And let's get into it. All right, so let's get into playing this guitar. So that is good for a verse riff. And then next, I'm going to go into the chorus riff. And I like to separate them just because it gives me a little bit more clarity. And then later on, if I decide I need to during the editing, I can just re-record it, or I can just punch in and make a smooth transition, which is not hard to do. So let's get in with this chorus. And I just messed up, so I'll just Command Z, start back. Alright, so wasn't the cleanest take. I'll probably clean it up later, but little studio trick, you can copy paste. Just make sure that you copy and paste into the right spot. And then usually it'll line up, and that will make the process a lot faster. I don't always like to do that, but for simplicity speedrunning purposes. That's what we're going to do today. Then we can see, oops, if it lines up properly, because timing is important. Yeah, so that way it's going to be the exact same. Probably going to timeline those in a bit. So after that, now I have to write the bridge part, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I wrote down a pretty cool, groovy Egyptian-like bridge piece, and I'm going to attempt to record that probably a couple times. So let's get into that. Timing was slightly off, so I'm going to do that again. Alright, so I think that sounds pretty cool. I'm going to make a harmony on that, because I thought of something about leaving this first part open and by itself. And in the mixing phase, I'm going to get into the panning and all that, but I'm going to do this real quick. So held the note out a little bit longer than when it starts, but that's fine. Just gonna crossfade over, do things like that. And then now is the chorus. Since I made a marker, I don't have to guess on how I'm gonna do that. So I'll just take this chorus, copy pasta it over somewhere around here. We'll see how that goes. And it's not lined up, so I always record 8 beats out, so that way you have a 4-second or 4-beat lead, then another 4-beat lead, and then you can always line it up on the spot. So that way, if you do the copy paste method like this, it'll always line up perfectly. And then it helps if you have it snapped to the smart snap, so it snaps at the grid. And then I think for the outro, I'm just gonna play that one riff over and over and just do a slow fade out and see how that goes. And then after that, I'm gonna go through, record all the other guitar parts, which I use on this one for the other tones. I have another set on here that I like. Unnamed, that one's pretty good. I like to have funny names on these sometimes. Herbie's Nightmare, it's a combination of a Diesel Herbert and a Purple Nightmare from Driftwood, and then Goji Crusher. I just kind of made a tone that I like on here. And then with the Quad Cortex hardware, like the actual pedal unit, I can turn things off and on, switch channels between the clean and the distortion, and it's a bunch of fun. So let's get into this though. messed up somewhere. Oh well. No, I think I messed up again. Gonna refer back to this, so alright, so the reason why I'm doing that is because this is a freshly written song, so I'm learning it as I write it. Alright, so after the mixing, I'm gonna just pretty much fade that out till it plays, and then during this time, I'm gonna write, and well, not really write, but record the other parts. So I like to do 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and that's why these are in stereo tracks, is because they're a combined guitar, because I want the tones combined, because I like the way it sounds. And really, in this process, you can do whatever you want and break rules. Just make sure the rules that you break make sense in the way that you break them. All right, so I will be back. Hey guys, so welcome back. I ended up recording bass, and then a friend came over to record some vocals. So we got some extra stuff to play around with. And in this little section here, I'm going to be going over editing, which in my opinion is the most tedious thing, because I like to be pretty thorough. So things that we're going to be looking for are sounds that we don't like to hear, like pops and clicks, mouth noises, sometimes breaths. It's going to be some flex audio, so time aligning things, like if something doesn't come in perfectly on time. Getting rid of some sound waves, maybe some breaks in between to get rid of noise. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes I like to take the MIDI drums over here, and I'll separate into separate tracks for like the kick, snare, hat, cymbals, toms. And you can do that in here in the plugin as well by doing the multi-output, but I don't feel like doing that. So I'm gonna get into that, and that's just a matter of like copy and paste in the actual MIDI notes. As for some of this stuff, like let's see, can start with. So usually I like to start with guitars because that usually has the most issues, like with timing, and vocals as well. So like here's a good spot. So click this little guy up here. That brings up this. Go to automatic polyphonic, which that way so it can detect multiple notes. I feel like it's a little bit more accurate. And you can take this here. You can see these little divisions and just move it over like that. Then I like to give it a listen, because sometimes when you stretch things, you'll get a bunch of artifacts. I like to solo it as well. And then if I really want to be meticulous about it, I can highlight pretty much the whole thing. And then over here, it's not always 100% accurate, but there's a quantize thing over here somewhere. Right here. So you can quantize it to notes. So like, let's say 30-second note, and then I'll automatically quantize it. But like I said, it's not 100% accurate, so I usually don't like to do that. Loop that. So in that case, I think it actually worked out pretty well. And you don't want to turn this off, because otherwise it will undo your timeline. And take that off. So and these here, they're just crossfades, just because you don't want any, like, zoom all the way in here. You can see like this, and if it's not completely neutral, so it's like up or down below that, above or below that line, you can get a pop or a click, which you don't want to hear, because like that'll come out in the mix. And then over here, there's a click there, so I'm just gonna turn this off. Do that. And then this guy here. And then always, at every single one of these, you always want to have your crossfades, or your fade ins, fade outs, just to keep things clean. And it looks like one of the guitars is coming in before the other one, but it's really not. It's the processing on it. I have it set to 2 different channels. So, not this one. So, I can turn this on, and then when that comes up, I'll show you how I have the guitar set on those. And it's just the amperage, not amperage, the basically the output volume on one is a little bit louder, which I compensate for that by adjusting the individual volume when I get into the mixing. But since it's on the same channel, you don't really have to worry about it that much. I guess it might be there. No, that's a different thing. So I'll listen to this and see what that is. That's probably just me cutting off the guitar when I recorded that part. Yeah, so I can just cut those off. Fade that like that. It's still loading up. So a lot of like the cleanliness of the mix is going to come from the editing. So if you have a cleaner edit, you're going to have a cleaner mix, which I think is super important. So, and what I'll do is I'll go through every single line, and you can hear like the little thing. on both sides, so that guy right there. This, and that'll help clean that up. And then I always like to throw a noise gate on just for like that little bit of hum. And it looks like I just came in late on that one. I'll double check, see if it's just moved over or I just came in late playing it. So like as it is right now, it is pretty close to on time. Like it's like just milliseconds off, but I go ahead and do that timeline trick again for the quantize. You see here it actually made it more off. So just take that, move it right there. Make sure you have one highlighted. Then here's something a little off on the right side. It's a little bit quieter, so I'll break it up. And those two parts are played different. So one has the triplets, the other one is just straight chugged. And these little things here, those are just transients. But I'm gonna get through some of this and then I'll be back, so that way it's not so long for you guys. Okay, so now that we have all of the editing pretty much done, you can see here, these are all like the timelines, the fades here. Just basically tightening everything up. The performance kind of changes because I'll extend something like to the half note instead of the quarter or something like that. And all these little notes, these ones are all auto done. As were for vocals, I like to go through and manually change everything. Just, I don't know, I just like to do it like that. So now that the editing is done, I'm going to go into the mixing part. So what I do is I'll make like a tree or a funnel of auxes. So basically subgroups. So the drums there, and normally I don't do it like verse part, chorus part, and bridge, something like that. Usually it's just like one solid thing with the two tracks. Put that there. And then same thing with guitars. Guitars, it really depends on the session on how I want to do it, but everything here is pretty steady. So, like, everything's pretty even, so I don't have to change a whole bunch. So I'm just going to do fewer than normal. And same thing with the vocals, because usually I like to separate the verse and the chorus and all that. But this seems to be all really steady, so you can all go into the same subgroup. Then, let's see. So I'll put those in there like that, and then the instruments, there's no synth track, so I don't have to worry about that. These will go into an instrument subgroup. And usually I'll have my separate vocals I'll just do it anyway. So that way the vocals can go in their own. And then after that, the instrument and the vocals will go into a mixdown. And if I do effects afterwards, I'll have the effects go into their own effects subgroup as well. But I'll see if I need that this time. And then also what I like to do on here is use SSL G-Bus, because it's a great compressor, and here's a setting that I like to use it, and I'll mix into that setting. And then what I'll also do is add like 10 dB of gain after that. So that way you can mix quietly and you have plenty of headroom. So for this compressor, I like to use 2 dB makeup, super slow attack, super fast released. Ratio is usually between 1.5 to 2. I'll keep it at 2 for now. And then the threshold will be so that I get a 2 dB of gain reduction. It's fine if it goes a little over or a little less, but it's more like a feel kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of loud. So I will take all of these tracks, because I do most of my main mixing on the subgroups, as where this is where I'll do like my smaller changes and automation. So let's bring it down to around there. And since everything in here is pretty steady, I can keep most of the individual channels all around the same kind of level. So can bring these probably down a little bit. And I can hear like right away the guitars mostly. I feel like they don't have enough definition. Usually I like to do like work from left to right and just kind of do that because of the order that I have things. Like the kick. Let's see. I got these new plugins from SSL, the Auto series, and they're pretty good from what I've tried so far. So I have my EQ that I like to use on the kick. So just see what they got here, just out of curiosity's sake. Yes, usually I do something kind of like this. See what they got. Another thing I started doing recently was sending everything a into like a mixed down reverb, so it's like a room reverb for everything, and it just basically there to help everything kind of meld or glue together. And this plugin has a pretty good reverb that I like. It's Chamber of Secrets, which I think is funny, but I'm gonna go more so for one of these, and I'll solo it. I did that wrong. So meant to put it on a bus. There we go. Usually I just do it full send and then I'll dial it back on the fader. It's subtle, but you can hear a little bit of liveliness come as I push the fader up. And if you listen to the reverb by itself, it's not doing a whole lot, but I feel like the amount of what it does will actually bring the mix a bit more together. So that's to set like the overall room tone, and I mean I just like how that sounds. So let's see what else there is. I think that's pretty cool. There is another SSL compressor that I really like. Well, it's the same one really, but this one just sounds really good on a snare too. Another thing I like to do is when I'm recording, have this on as low buffer size as possible for minimal latency, and then when I mix, I usually like to go one of these three, but if I plan on doing a lot, I'm gonna do probably this one. And it's just basically a read ahead, but the higher the buffer size, the more latency you'll get. But right now, I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, so now you can hear those ghost notes, which before you couldn't really hear. It just sound like a straight snare. But I'm gonna adjust the volume on that. And I usually don't recommend using presets, but like some of them actually do sound good, and they're a good starting point for doing like I don't know experimentation, I guess. And this is just going to be for a snare reverb. I like halls on drums, and halls are also known to give it space to, like, if you want to make it sound like it's far away, um, it's a good way to go. So let's just see what this sounds like. Mm, I'm not really feeling that one. So, to experimentation, I guess. So sidechain compression is also pretty important, especially if you have a lot going on and you just need to duck something down. I try not to over compress things. Things I will definitely put compression on for sidechain compression is the instrument track or instrument subgroup. And I will do the this guy here and let the vocals compress it down a little bit. So I'll just do the auto one. And this one, it's going to be pretty similar to the actual bus compressor. It's going to be low makeup gain, super low ratio. Compression is going to be pretty minimal. This one, the attack and release are going to be a bit different because I want the vocals to just duck down on the instruments. And we're going to be using a bus and right here. So now the compressor reads from the vocal channels and will compress the instruments based off the vocals dynamics. That wasn't the right one. It was this bus. It's not showing up. Oh, no, that is right. I see what's going on. So, need to send this to bus 5. That's why it's being weird. Forgot to change that one. So this, you don't really want to hear the ducking down. You just want the vocals to ride just right above the instruments. So, okay, now hearing that will help me mix these guys better. So, let's see how the drums can use this guy again. And I'm just experimenting with these because these are new, so just gonna try this. So for the guitars, they feel a little too smooth. Like they don't have enough that bite. So, um, that bite will give it the articulation that I feel it needs. So, use a lot of SSL and also the Slate digital plugins. Just kind of really whatever I'm feeling like using at the moment. That's what I'm missing on the snares 1K, so I can just plop that right there. That'll give it some body. For this one, the D is basically dynamics mode, so it's a compressor basically for just these selected frequencies, like a multi-band compressor. So I'm just trying to get the kick to sound like really tight, and same with the snare, just so they kind of snap together. You can also experiment by swapping the EQ and the compressor back and forth too. So that is that. As for the guitar, since they all kind of need sort of the same EQ, I'm just gonna do it all on the bus. So the left guitar is slightly louder than the right. So I'll just compensate for that really quick on these sections. So I think that's good. So next, I'll do the bass. So on the bass, I'm using the quad cortex on the bass from Neural DSP, but I also like to run it into the dark glass and the parallax, which I don't know if a lot of people do that or not, but I think it sounds good. Like, there's obviously a lot of settings that won't work for it, but we'll see how this goes. And I made my own little preset on here. I was watching a video on Meshuggah, and I was looking at the bassist pedal board because I knew that he uses this pedal, and I pretty much just like looked at those settings, and it sounds pretty good. Then pair that with this preset called Snorlax, and then just adjust a few things, and I think it sounds pretty good. See how that sounds in the mix. Another thing I'll do, I almost forgot to do it, is the sidechain compressor on the kick. So the kick will duck down the bass, and it will let it come through a bit better because they live in the same frequency like range, so they usually conflict with each other. the auto on the release, that works by automatically setting the timing based on the, I guess, input. So like the gain of or how loud something is hitting the compressor, and it will adjust the release time on that. So the triplet chugs is probably a really good spot to listen to the EQ that I did on the guitars, because I want to get that pick attack to come in. Another common misconception about like bass and stuff like that is a lot of the guitar tone comes from the bass. And I feel like a lot of people misunderstand that or just don't ever really think about that, because I listen to it with and without. Just feels like it's missing a whole dimension of stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much good for that. Alright, so now let's go over part with the vocals, like the ending here. Another new plugin that I just got recently is called the Mantra by Neural DSP. So I've been testing that out, and it's kind of like an all-in-one thing, and it saves a lot of CPU power, and it just got a lot of flexibility to it. So we're gonna try that. So, not really sure what all is this about. So we'll just do lead, heavy vocal. Yeah, I don't really like ping pong delays a whole lot. It's also in mix mode. I'll leave this in mono. There's stereo. You lose some features in stereo, but the vocals are in mono. It's just, they're 2-tracked, like doubled, but they're center, so they're just gonna live like that anyway. I like the long, slow delays. I'm not a big fan of that. Also, the delays are way too long. I'm doing the stops just so I can hear what's actually going on with the reverb and delay. I just heard a weird thing. I think it's artifacts here. Yeah, so just gonna delete these. So you gotta be careful with doing edits, like time-align stuff, because you'll get really weird artifacts. Maybe that was the doubler. Yeah, that was a doubler. I'll put these back. That's weird. Yeah, I don't really like that sculpt sound with these vocals. I'm just gonna keep that off. So I'm gonna A/B with this and then something else. A/B with this and then some other random things. Maybe cause I'm hearing a bunch of distortion that I kind of don't like, but I think it's coming from the saturation. Maybe just making it more prominent. Sometimes you want that distortion though. Like with some preamps, they sound really good when they're pushed really hard. All right, so for simplicity purposes, I think that's a decent mix. So now I'll go into the mastering, which that means I gotta bring these reverbs down. losing the snare for whatever reason. All right. Also, I'm listening through the Slate VSX headphones, and I like to do everything on them because it makes it feel like you're actually in a room, and I just like it. So, gonna. There's a mastering room on here that's really nice, right here. And now, I have a pretty simple mastering chain, I think. I move this down. And I don't like super loud masters personally. Um, I like clarity and breathing room, but I also like it. I like to feel it too, so there's loudness in that. But we'll try this. There's a plugin I recently got. I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of like the Soothe 2 plugin. So that's what I'm looking for right now, but I also just put the Soothe 2 on there. Don't think it's that one. This one. And then I like to put a de-esser on the end and just bring the gain down a little bit, just to be sure I'm not clipping or pushing anything like that. And on here, there's some settings I like to do always. One of the important ones is the ceiling. So the ceiling, a lot of people I've seen push like at 0.1 or whatever, but I think that's silly. So I like to bring it down to -1. That way you have headroom, because what's hitting there is the peaks, and what gives you the actual loudness is going to be the RMS, so the root mean squared, which is like the average of the peaks and the valleys for the sound. And then this is more like a feel kind of thing. And I'm going to adjust all this, but this is like a starting point kind of thing. And I haven't really used this one either, so I'm going to be testing that out as well. Just to see what we got here. keep hearing something weird here. Alright, whatever that was, it's gone now. So this one, I always set it to 1 to 20 because that way I just have as much gain as I want. And I mean, I think that sounds pretty good if I say so myself. But you'll notice like it's saying like -5 here. That's because the VSX plugin for the headphones brings down the gain quite a bit. But when I bounce it, it's going to mute itself pretty much. But I like that for master. It's plenty loud. It's not clipping. It's not breaking any of my rules. I like to shoot for an RMS between like 9 and 11. Glad that part came up because I think that's a bit too loud. Yeah, they're just a little bit too loud, so I'm going to bring them down, and then because I want it to go evenly with the other tracks. That's pretty much that, so I can save 500 times. and then just highlight all of this, click bounce. I'm gonna bounce as an MP3 and a wave. This session is recorded in at 48 kilohertz sample rate and 24-bit depth. This will give me more resolution, and then this will give me more dynamic range, so I'll have more room to work with without clipping. And that's pretty much that. And then after that, basically I'm going to be replace that one. I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube, where you guys will be watching it now. And then the song itself, I can release it on distribution platforms like DistroKid or TuneCore, like whatever I feel like doing, or just do my own thing and release it to who I want, etc. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you'll hear the full song shortly. All right. Thank you for sticking by this extremely long video. Thank you.